Our American democracy gives us the ability to influence and control most of our nation's policies. Our democratic system works together with our economic system, which is based on free enterprise or competition among those wanting to sell us products or services. The result is a higher standard of living for all of us in America, as well as for many in other countries that combine these two systems. All over the world, many countries try to imitate our system in an effort to achieve our governmental protections and standard of living. Millions of individuals and families have been trying to get access to our nation's benefits. Nearly 1 out of 10 people in America chose to move to the United States. But does our American system of democracy and free enterprise economy really work so well? Are the standards of living for each of us in America really so high? Aren't there many of us in America whose standard of living is really no higher than most of the people in the world? As an American, where do you stand in the world? This video will help you know 2 basic things. First, how does our health compare to the rest of the world? Second, which choices do we Americans make which influence our physical well-being? Our first focus, the comparison of you to the rest of the world, will look at 1, the likelihood of your living to the age of 5, 2, access to emergency medical care, 3, growing to your full height potential, and 4, access to a doctor. Our second focus, your choices that influence your physical well-being, will look at 1, drugs, 2, teenage pregnancy and marriage, 3, risks for heart attack, 4, cancer, 5, obesity, 6, sexually transmitted diseases, and 7, auto crashes. You will learn how we Americans compare to other countries in many interesting ways, and even how the people in your locale compare to other Americans. Now you will hear from the person who's helping make this video possible in your area.
Hello, my name is Emmett Schuster. I am the President and CEO of Gibson General Hospital. We're bringing you this DVD in an effort to help you better understand our country's democratic and economic system and how that impacts your health and well-being as an American. At Gibson General Hospital, we strive to care for and improve the health of people of Gibson County and the surrounding communities by providing high-quality, patient-centered care. To do this, we offer much-needed services that you'd expect to see at a community hospital, such as emergency room, radiology, laboratory, surgical, and inpatient services. We also offer specialized services that our community needs, like rehabilitation services, home health, and chemotherapy. In addition, as a cornerstone for health care in our community, we work to be a strong community partner by participating in health fairs, providing wellness screening and activities, and providing education to the young and old on the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle. The DVD you're about to watch addresses one of the important but complex issues with which our government must deal, the health and well-being of its citizens. We hope this DVD will help you better understand how the decisions made by your government can impact your daily lives. And we hope it will also help you recognize the role you can play in maintaining your health and well-being through responsible and healthy lifestyle choices. Understanding these matters will make you more aware of what it means to be an American, in this particular example, what it means from the perspective of your standard of living and your health.
By the end of this video, you will know a lot of new things about yourself, the people in your country, your state, and your town. Okay, remember, we are first going to look at what America makes available to you in terms of your living to the age of 5. You more than likely happen to have been born in the United States. You could just as easily have been born in another country, like France, Chile, Niger, or China, for example. How does this affect your physical well-being? Is it true that if your family had not come to America, you would be less likely to be alive today? To best visualize and remember the answer to this question, picture 100 of your fellow classmates. To understand how many Americans sadly don't live to the age of 5, have one of your 100 classmates lie down on the floor. About 1 out of 100 Americans doesn't live to the age of 5. In 75% of the world's nations, more than 1 out of 100 doesn't live to the age of 5. Now picture again your group of 100 people, but this time picture yourselves as living in the country of Afghanistan or Sierra Leone. You may look a little different, but you would have the same basic hopes and fears. How many of your 100 friends from Afghanistan or your 100 friends from Sierra Leone would not make it to the age of 5? Sadly, you would have to ask 26 out of the 100 of your fellow Afghanis to lie down on the floor, and ask 27 of your fellow 100 Sierra Leoneans to do the same. As hard as that is to believe, that's how many children in Afghanistan and Sierra Leone routinely don't make it to the age of 5, nearly 1 out of 4. These countries have the highest death rate for children under the age of 5. Notice the statistics on this subject around the world. See how these countries stack up to ours. Now, we will look at America's emergency medical care. What would happen if you or your family members were hit by a car and seriously injured? How many Americans out of 100 would be in a clean, well-equipped hospital within 45 minutes? What do you think? 90 out of 100? 50? 10? The best experts estimate that 90 Americans would be in such a hospital within 45 minutes. Most of these Americans who would not be in a clean, modern hospital within 45 minutes live in remote areas of the United States, far from a city or town or hospital. How does your American emergency care compare to people in the rest of the world? According to the best experts on the subject, only 30 of 100 seriously injured people in the world would be in a clean, medically well-equipped hospital within 45 minutes of their injury. In the United States, we have more hospitals and better medical care than most of the world. While the vast majority of Americans believe our healthcare system needs to be improved, many of the world's wealthiest people still fly all the way to our country so they can use the very same hospitals which we take for granted. Okay, third, let's look at what America makes available to you to reach your full height potential. This comparison will help give you an idea of how you might look if your family had not come to America. For a number of you, you would look exactly the same, except, as amazing as it sounds, your height would be different. Lack of adequate food in other countries prevents people from reaching their full height potential. For example, a study of Japanese Americans found that they were significantly taller than their same-age relatives in Japan. Globally, malnutrition is a major problem. Around 1/3 of the world's children suffer from stunted growth problems. In the United States, as in other developed countries, food is plentiful and available. Thus, only about 3% of American children suffer from stunted growth problems. Sadly, the availability of food doesn't necessarily mean children receive an adequate amount of it. Take a look at the screen to determine if the area of interest to you has stunted growth problems due to nutrition. Okay, fourth, what does America make available to you in terms of the number of doctors? The number of doctors in a country does give us some idea about the quality of medical care, but medical facilities play an important role as well. A country needs both for good medical care. How does the number of doctors in the United States compare to the number of doctors in countries around the world? To help visualize this statistic, picture in each country 100,000 people seated in a stadium, and picture the number of doctors for every 100,000 people in that country standing on the field of that stadium. First, let's picture the stadium in America. There would be 266 American doctors. In the United States, we have 266 doctors for every 100,000 people. About 78% of the nations have fewer doctors than we have in the United States. Now let's picture the stadium in the Philippines or Thailand. There would be only 37 doctors on the field in Thailand and 120 in the Philippines. The stadium in Nepal would have only 21 doctors on the field. In Gambia, there would be 11, and in Ethiopia, there would be only 3 doctors on the field for every 100,000 people. In England, there would be 230 doctors for every 100,000 people. Notice here the number of doctors per 100,000 people in various areas around the world. To review, we've learned that most of the people in the world would want to trade places with you when considering the 4 aspects of health care that we've discussed. 1, living to the age of 5. 2, emergency health care. 3, reaching your full height potential. And 4, the number of doctors in a country. Now we'll take some time to see how you compare to others in the world with regard to education. How many Americans don't complete or go beyond elementary school? The answer is only 5 out of 100 Americans. How many people in the world, in these modern times of computers and the internet, don't complete or go beyond elementary school? You will be surprised. In the little country of Afghanistan, 62 out of 100 children and 79 out of 100 girls don't. The worst is the Central African Republic, where 76 of 100 children don't complete elementary school. Look at this display to see how many from which countries don't complete or go beyond elementary school. Let's take another break from such serious subjects as your health and physical well-being for just another moment. Let's give you an idea of how you compare in terms of modern conveniences. How many television sets would be owned by an average group of 100 Americans? The answer is 84. By contrast, for every 100 people in India, the country which contains nearly a fifth of the world's population, there are only 8 television sets per 100. In Mexico, there are 28, and in Canada, 68. Countries comparable to the United States include Japan, Bermuda, and Denmark. Most Americans are surprised to learn how high the standard of living is for even the poorest Americans compared to the majority of the people in the world. Given our access to top-of-the-line emergency medical care, one would think then that we Americans would live the longest lives known to mankind, yet many of us don't. Many of our personal choices, our habits, ways of doing things, keep some of us from having long lives. The health situation for some of us is a little like our being surrounded by the world's most modern exercise and athletic training equipment. That alone doesn't make us strong, well-conditioned athletes. We have to spend some time learning how to use the equipment and then discipline ourselves enough to actually use it on a regular basis. Let's now discuss some of the reasons why our having large numbers of doctors, excellent accessible hospitals, and other health-related benefits does not assure us of long, healthy lives. The individual choices we make can greatly impact our health. These choices include drug use, smoking, healthy eating, exercise, sexual practices, and dangerous conduct. Okay, first, how do Americans compare with respect to drugs? Drug use can negatively impact your health, your behavior, your performance in schools and sports, and your personal relationships with others. According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, 13% of 8th graders and 26% of high school seniors in the United States have used an illegal drug in the last year. Since 2001, there has been a 25% reduction in the number of young people using illegal drugs in the United States. While illegal drug use is on the decline in the United States, we still rank high among countries worldwide in terms of our use of illegal drugs. Okay, how do Americans compare with respect to single teenage motherhood? There are many examples of children of unmarried mothers who grew up to have good lives. However, a major study shows unmarried teenage mothers and their children have a higher percentage of problems than experienced by others. The study by the highly respected Robin Hood Foundation in New York, whose board includes Tom Brokaw of NBC News and Marian Wright Edelman, president of the Children's Defense Fund, found that single teenage mothers have a much higher rate of welfare dependence and much lower likelihood of completing high school. Babies of single teenage mothers have more birth defects and suffer more abuse and neglect at home. They tend to experience more trouble at school, and they drop out and run away from home at a higher rate. Also, they get fewer jobs, the jobs pay less, and they spend more time in jail. Let's compare it to others in the world. The percentage of American females, both married and unmarried, having babies as teenagers. 4 out of 100 American teenagers have babies. How does that compare? Look at how we stand among European countries, among East and South Asian and Pacific countries, among sub-Saharan African countries, among Middle East and North African countries, among the Americas, and among Central Asian countries. Okay, how do Americans compare with respect to cancer and heart attacks? The leading cause of death in the United States is heart attack. According to our country's experts, the average American would live significantly longer if he or she simply avoided high-fat foods, exercised moderately, and didn't smoke. In the last 30 years, as Americans have chosen to eat less fat, exercise more, and smoke less, the heart attack age-adjusted death rate in America has been cut in half. In a 2008 Gallup poll, over half of all Americans indicated that they had exercised or had a lot of physical activity in the previous day. Canadians responded comparably, but only 1 in 5 in France said they had exercised, and only 1 in 4 Germans said so. Compared to other countries in the world, our heart attack rate is quite average. Cancer is the second highest killer of Americans, and it's on the rise. Yet according to the World Health Organization, at least 1/3 of all cancers are preventable. One's chance of getting cancer is impacted by one's genes, the environment, and lifestyle choices. But one can significantly reduce one's chances of getting cancer by living a healthy lifestyle and avoiding damaging habits like tobacco use and high sun exposure. Melanoma, a form of skin cancer, is the second most common form of cancer in young adults aged 15 to 29. A person's risk of melanoma doubles if she or he has had 5 sunburns at any age. First exposure to tanning beds in youth increases melanoma risk by 75%. Conducted regularly, screening exams can detect cancers when they are most treatable, and in some cases, screening exams can catch cell abnormalities before they even turn into cancer, thus preventing cancer from occurring. International experts believe that cancer will overtake heart disease as the world's leading cause of death in the next few years. This is in great part due to large increases in tobacco use in the developing world. Worldwide, between 80,000 and 100,000 kids start smoking every day. Roughly half of them live in Asia. In fact, 1 in 5 young teens worldwide is a smoker. According to the National Cancer Institute, cigarette smoking causes 87% of lung cancer deaths and 30% of all cancer deaths. It's the largest preventable cause of disease and premature death in America. In comparison to other countries, our cancer rates are high for some cancers, average for some cancers, and low for others. Okay, how do Americans compare with regard to obesity? First, let's discuss what it means to be obese and overweight. Imagine an average 9th grade boy in the United States. He would stand about 5'7". He would be in the overweight category if he weighed 160 to 190 pounds. He would be in the obese category if he weighed over 190 pounds. Obesity is a growing health problem in the United States. In fact, the U.S. has the highest obesity rate of all the countries in the world. 34% of Americans are considered overweight, and an additional 32% are considered obese. Comparatively, only 10% of Italians, 9% of French, and 3% of Japanese are considered obese. We currently consume more calories per capita than citizens of any other country. According to the U.S. Surgeon General, the number of overweight American children has doubled, and the number of overweight adolescents has tripled since 1980. Being obese or overweight increases one's risk of heart attack, diabetes, and some forms of cancer. Healthy eating, exercise can decrease this risk factor. Let's compare our obesity and overweight rates to some other countries around the world. Okay, how do Americans compare with regard to sexually transmitted diseases? Nationally, half of all sexually active youth will contract an STD by age 25. Fortunately, most STDs are treatable and not life-threatening. However, according to the National Institutes of Health, STD infections may result in other serious health problems, including infertility, birth defects, and the transmission of HIV. HIV/AIDS continues to kill millions around the world. AIDS is the 6th leading cause of death worldwide. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 14,000 Americans died from AIDS in 2006, roughly 1/3 the number of people killed annually in car accidents. Despite inroads in education, there are still nearly 5,000 young Americans aged 13 to 24 who are diagnosed with AIDS each year. AIDS is one of the few leading causes of death that is entirely preventable. Improved medical treatments developed in the 1990s have prolonged the lives of those living with AIDS by nearly 2 decades and have led to the decline in the U.S. of AIDS deaths. Still, AIDS remains the 10th leading cause of death among 15 to 24-year-olds in the United States. Compared to other countries worldwide, the U.S. AIDS prevalence rate is average, while our AIDS death rate is low due to the availability of these improved medical treatments. Finally, how do Americans choose with respect to automobile crashes? automobile crashes continue to be an ongoing danger, killing 41,000 Americans in 2007 alone. For teenagers over 16, the automobile is the greatest threat to their lives. Nearly 32% of fatal crashes involve alcohol. In addition, many crashes occur because of distracted drivers who are talking on their cell phones, texting, or carrying on conversations. By driving carefully and keeping impaired people from getting behind the steering wheel, your risk of dying in a car accident greatly reduces. Traffic accidents are the leading cause of death for young people worldwide, according to the United Nations. Compared to the rest of the world, our crash rate ranks a bit above average, but compared to the developing world, our rate is low. In fact, 90% of all traffic fatalities occur in mid and low-income countries. You can be proud of the fact that you now know and can remember important information about how you as an American compare with respect to your health. Few Americans know that the great majority of other people in the world today don't have fast access to clean hospitals and don't live to the age of 5 and don't grow to their full height potential. Others don't understand how badly we compare in terms of drug use, obesity, and AIDS rates. Now that you know how you compare to the world, what follows is a description of where your state ranks with respect to some of the health and well-being issues covered in this video. Do you remember your mental picture of the 100,000-seat athletic stadium and the number of doctors per 100,000 people standing on the field? In Nepal, there were about 21 doctors on the field. Ethiopia had about 3, and in Gambia, there were about 11 per 100,000. In Thailand and the Philippines, there were 37 and 120 respectively. And in America, there were an average of 266 doctors per 100,000 people. If you put that stadium in your state, there would be this many doctors standing on the field per 100,000 people. Now, how does your state compare with the other 49 states and the District of Columbia in terms of problems with infant mortality, obesity, and AIDS? To give you some idea how your part of the state compares on one health issue, you might be interested in the following charts. You will now hear from the person who was constitutionally elected by the people in your part of the state to represent your interests regarding health and other important issues in our nation's government in Washington, D.C.
Hello, I'm Congressman Larry Bucshon. I was first elected in 2010 to represent the 8th Congressional District of Indiana. This district includes 18 counties in the most western and southern part of the great state of Indiana, with offices in Evansville, Terre Haute, and Vincennes. I was chosen by the voters in our area to represent you when your country's national government deals with issues of importance to our lives, including the issues of our health and well-being. The various subjects you have been learning about in this video give you an example of the kinds of detailed information which I deal with as your member of Congress in Washington, D.C. My job is to study such matters and try to make sure that any actions our national government may take will be best for the lives of the people in the area I represent and the people in the rest of our great nation. It helps me do my job best if I learn the opinions of my constituents. That includes you, about how the various policies of our national government affect their lives. As issues arise, I look forward to hearing from you. Together, we will keep our nation the greatest nation in the world. Thank you.
We at Gibson General Hospital are pleased that we have been able to bring this DVD to the people of the 8th Congressional District of Indiana. Building and maintaining a high standard of living and a healthy populace takes a great deal of personal responsibility by individual citizens and a well-functioning democracy in which the people communicate with their government. We hope that this DVD helped you understand where you stand in regard to your health and well-being, and also something more about what it means to be an American.
So in conclusion, where do you stand as an American? The answer is that from the perspective of our standard of living, as shown by our health and well-being, each one of us Americans is provided with a whole lot more than the great majority of the billions of other people in the world. And if we make wise personal choices, we Americans can have the greatest standard of living the world has known from a health and well-being perspective.